Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Vernon and Richard Show. In today's episode, Vernon and Richard, in today's episode, we are basically going to explain or debrief or reflect on our time at PeersCon 2025. We had the privilege of being in Nottingham for the second edition of this conference, and it was an incredibly fantastic day with lots of great talks. And yeah, we share some of our reflections on those talks, dig a little bit into some of those topics, and share some of our own experiences.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. We had some vague outline of what we were going to do with this particular episode, and it just turned into a hype session for PeersCon and going through the schedule, and because we weren't in the same place at the same time, so we just shared what we got from each of the sessions. Some great sessions. The schedule was fantastic. So it was really good.
So yeah, enjoy,
folks. Greetings and welcome to the latest episode of the Vernon Richard Show. I'm Vernon.
I'm Richard.
And we are recording this at a different time of day than we usually do. Usually we record in the evening, usually in the middle of the night, because I've invariably been delayed and been late.
It's daylight.
Now it's daylight. It's pretty early in the morning, which is going to be interesting. This is my usual habitat. So I'm quite good about this.
Although I'm an night owl, so we'll see.
Yeah, although I'm still going to be yawning because it's Ramadan at the moment. My sleeping pattern is not where it usually is. Anyway, greetings, welcome. We are recording this after we've been to the Testing Peers conference, PeersCon, which was in Nottingham. It was absolutely brilliant. Had a wonderful time. I was volunteering, which is what they call the volunteers at the conference. So that was a beautiful experience. Got to see behind the scenes just a little bit. So that was cool. Saw all the effort that got put into, or at least some of the effort that got put into organising the event. So shout out to the peers, shout out to the volunteers, shout out to everybody who was on the organising committee. It was another great event, in my opinion. Great work. I spent most of my time in the workshops. Lucky enough to introduce a couple of speakers, and I was glad I got to introduce those two presenters in particular for two different reasons. But yeah, how was it for you, Rich?
It was
Nottingham
great.
Open ground, right? I feel like it's where Friendly Tester was born.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was the first place I did a meetup, organised a meetup. It was where I was living when I got involved in the wider testing community, and it was where I started Friendly Testing, the company, which was kind of came off the back of doing Friendly Tester, the blog, and everything else. So yeah, like Nottingham, I lived there for, I don't know, five years at least, I think. So yeah, no, it was great. Again, it's really nice to, we've had Leeds Atelier, they're like a free event, and it's nice to get another kind of low cost event. Like there is lots of great events, but 15 quid, sorry. Was it 15 quid or 25 quid this year? I can't remember.
The way I like to describe it is the most expensive ticket is 25 quid.
Yeah.
The most you can pay to get in there is 25 quid.
And for a one-day conference, it's organised because they want to bring people together. It's not for business. I like the fact they show the finances. Like this is the cost. Help us get to this figure, and that really helped them at the end because I think they were a couple of grand short, and they were able to show the finances and say, hey, can you someone sponsor and help us out? But yeah, now the talks were great. Again, the speakers are great. It was nice to see loads of familiar faces from the community. And just they've just got, I don't know how they've done it, but it's just a really cool vibe. It's just nice. It's just nice to be there. You feel like a beer. There's no pretentious. Yeah. There's no underlying messages. There's no like alternative like things they're trying to get you to do. It's just, hey, come here, hang out, and enjoy. But yeah, really enjoyed the talks. Katia did a fantastic opening keynote. It was great to see Verla in the afternoon as well. And yeah, it was just, I really enjoyed them.
Yeah, there are a bunch of talks that I wanted to see in the morning, but I missed because I was in the workshop. So I was in a really, really, really good workshop with Zillard Zell
Yep.
about the pipeline game, and it complemented very well the following workshop, which was the risk storming workshop with the big beautiful Belgian, as I like to call him, Berin van Dalen. So those two workshops really complemented each other a lot. But it did mean that there were 4 talks that I absolutely wanted to see that I didn't
Yeah.
see. Katya always talks. She's got this really dry sense of humor.
She does.
That I really, really
Yeah,
like.
she does.
But the things she's talking about are always really, really important. And so I was kind of annoyed that I missed that.
She's a
Stevens,
fantastic. So yeah, she's got a great sense of humor,
yeah,
but she's fantastic at picking out the important bits of
that's what.
her actual experiences. I've only ever seen her talk really from experience,
Mm,
and she picks out the bits that really matter, and then
mm,
attaches other studies that she's done to the bit that she's picked out, and then
yeah,
just delivers it in this, like dry, the like dry sense of humor, or just it feels like really like, but like actually it just hits, and it's great. Yeah.
yeah, really nice, relaxed presenting style. Um, I missed Stevens' talk around stoicism. I really wanted to see that talk because something else that I helped with was what do they call it? Like helping pick
The reviews, yeah.
reviewing the applications, the submissions, and I saw his, and it was just that's like I wanted to. I think my feedback was I want to see this talk immediately.
I wrote down. I'm just looking at my own notes just while you mentioned that, and I didn't write an awful lot because I think I was listening to him, and I think I've come across the term a few times, but like he repeated this phrase 3 times, which was, "Your thoughts control your happiness." And
Wow,
like that kept every time he kept saying it kept like hitting me again and again and again. And
amazing.
I was like, yeah, you know what, that makes like so much sense. And he was like, if you're in this situation, is like if you start thinking that way, then you'll have that negative side of it. You'll start believing it. You'll start running. It's like your thoughts control your happiness. It's like that's a pretty nice way to live.
The good thing, I say the good thing, the lucky thing is Stephen is also presenting at the Leeds Testing Atelier,
Ah, nice.
and they tend to record their talks and put them on YouTube. So
They do.
Leeds Testing Atelier tickets go like hotcakes.
They're gone.
If I was going to say, if by some miracle they have any, you should check it out. But if not, I would encourage you to go and catch Stephen's talk on their YouTube channel when it comes out. And I also missed Lauren's talk. She told me how to pronounce her last name, and I've already forgotten. Lauren Boroiko. I think that's how you say your last name. If by some miracle you hear this, Lauren, forgive me for butchering your last name. I've heard Lauren speak before. She is super duper duper awesome, and this was another talk that I wanted to hear. I think it's a really important topic, and I wanted to hear more about it. So irritated, but I want to see if Lauren is presenting it somewhere else, or if she's
Yeah, I
doing
got
a meetup somewhere, because she's a great presenter.
again just looking at notes. I think there's quite a few notes here actually, but like she mentioned something about transparency I can never say spheres, transparency
Sphere.
in spheres,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of how you it's not possible, or it's not, in some cases it's not appropriate to share everything with everyone. So
Mm,
like you have these spheres and they obviously overlap, and like Venn diagram, and that's where
okay.
you share some of that information, but you can't share everything with everyone all of the time.
Okay.
And because she was talking about cross-functional teams or beyond cross-functional teams, it's like
Mm.
if you just tell everyone everything all the time, no, like it's too much information. Like people are just gonna
Cognitive load.
drown. Yeah,
Cognitive overload.
yeah. So I remember taking a note about that. She mentioned a lot about job crafting, which I found is a fascinating topic, because I think a lot of us with a lot of experience in the industry kind of do end up shaping our own jobs a little bit because we're used to it.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And I've been chatting to someone at work recently about the difference between testing and quality, and they're very much stuck in a testing kind of track at the moment with this with the project they're on. And it means they can't do the things they want. It's like, well, it's because you're having the conversation about testing, not about quality. If you changed it, you could probably craft your role to be slightly different and get in there and start influencing in different places.
Interesting.
But yeah, no, again, that was a really good talk from Lauren, a fellow Mancunian, or at least resident.
Yeah, for the keen-eyed, I don't know if this is going to make the cut, but for the keen-eyed amongst you, there is something that Richard's finding quite triggering in my background. Moving swiftly on, because we don't want to make this a football podcast. I didn't see Jit present this talk, but I have seen him present this talk elsewhere.
Yeah,
and it's Jit, so Jitesh Gosai from the wonderful city of Leicester, like me. Just an exceptional communicator. And that is a great talk. It's a really, really good talk where he contrasts and defines and, tries to dispel a few myths about, well, you can only have one, not the other. He talks about, well, is that true? And if it is true, why? And if it's not true, why? And how can we do we have to choose? And if we didn't have to choose, how could we make that happen?
Yeah.
So
he made a good joke about quality. And sorry to call this out, Jit, because I do know you listen. But his slides were running on a Windows machine and not on his usual Mac. So all his placement was completely off. So like icons were overlapping words, but he made fun of it quite early on about the quality of Windows and his slides.
If you haven't seen a Jit presentation, basically his slides are nuts. In the best way. They're really clever and fulsome and intricate. So yeah, being on a Windows
machine, really
annoying.
awesome. It is a really awesome talk. I think it's the second time I've seen it as well. But again, just real evidence, real experiences, lovely visuals around how you can't just go from, moving at the speed of light to trying to have all this quality, or being told to go faster and expect quality to be the same, because it just doesn't. They don't correlate that way. And he was really great at explaining that, there's going to be a dip. If you're trying to improve your quality, there's going to be a bit where you're going to have to slow down to have the time to focus on which bits to improve to eventually see the returns. But yeah, he breaks it down really well. And, the conclusion is, you can have both, but, in balance, right? They've got to go against each other. If you need more of one, you're going to impact the other. And there's just no other way really to avoid doing that. But if you're aware of it, then it's easier to communicate to people and set expectations.
You've got to slow down in order to speed up.
Yeah.
So my CrossFit coach, shout out to you, JD. He would always say, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And I think that applies to software development as well. You got to learn the good habits, and those good habits are the things that give you the speed, give you the pace, give you the agility. And then the next two talks, these ones are dear to my heart. One was from the absolutely irrepressible, energetic Feeler Verhagen. I probably messed up your name. Forgive me, Feeler. Feeler was talking about. Feeler's talk was called "The Left Flank is Failing: Continuous Communication in the Heat of Battle." I was like, what? And what she was talking about is some of the things that she learns in her. They're like historical battle reenactments. Like people are swinging actual axes and spears and all sorts of swords at you, and there's a lot of skill involved, and there's a lot of tactics, and she's learned a few things or realized some parallels between what she's doing over there with what she's doing in her day job, because Fearla's been a tester, been a scrum master, like seems to speak a bajillion languages. So yeah, and she folded all of that into her presentation in a really, really interesting way. So that was really fun.
There were some really good messages from there around the communication and being. I can't remember the one she acted out, but it was like a message from the commander or leader who's behind you, and then you have to keep repeating it. And like, even though again, like you said, she was tying this to these reenactments. I've never don't think I've even been to one of these things, but I've never taken part in one. But to think about that back in the real world, where someone up top has said this is our key message, and sometimes you don't repeat it. As in, like, I've been in that position where I don't repeat it verbatim, and I try and like word it a different way. But like sometimes it is just easier to say the same thing and keep that consistency in the messages that are coming from in that case the leader.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I found it really interesting, and there's also some ties to Netherlands and the bike department that she was working in. But yeah, no, it was really good talk, and yeah, the acting, the reenactment on the stage as well was awesome.
More acting from Fearler. She's turned into a bit of an actress slash software developer, engineer extraordinaire.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got to introduce Fearless talk. That was I was feeling very blessed about that. And then following Fearless talk was my new pal, Christopher Briggs. This one also held a special place in my heart for me because I was lucky enough with Karen Todd. Karen designed a workshop. I should remember the name of the workshop. This is terrible. I'll put the link to the title in the show notes. But what Karen wanted to do is that she wanted to help people extract and then craft and shape abstracts so that they could then submit them to talks, because that is something that she had struggled with. And over the course of it feels like a few months, because Karen's a bit of a beast, but it was probably over a year or two, and then she started to get accepted to some talks, and so she came up with this really cool workshop, and she asked if I would help present the workshop with her, so I did. So we did that last year at Testbash in Brighton, and Christopher was there, and Christopher was in the workshop, and he started to get this idea out of his head. And between then and now, he's crafted it into an abstract, submitted it to PeersCon, and it got accepted on merit. There was no shenanigans or chicanery going on. And it was absolutely fantastic. I've never said this to Christopher. To me, Christopher, this is a compliment, or it might not sound like it, but if any of you know the actor Brian Blessed, right, he's just this unbelievable thespian, articulate. He just fills the space. That is Christopher. And I learned some things about Christopher that explain this. He thinks at 1,000 miles an hour, but he can articulate himself at 1,000 miles an hour as well.
Yeah.
And he's got all these amazing words. And I discovered something about him during the course of the talk that made that even more remarkable. The things that he's had to overcome in order to articulate himself so well and so effectively. So I was super excited to hear this talk, because I think he's a great. Whenever I've chatted with him in the past, even before the workshop, thought this dude has got a lot of interesting ideas, and he's just got a level of fun that I personally like.
Well,
and that came across in the talk. It really came across in the talk.
It did. There's two things that jump out.
His talk was called "Outrunning Extension: Surviving Then Thriving in an Era of Change," and he talked about how he has done that, how he has evolved, the challenges that he's had to overcome in order to have the success that he's has, where he's at now. It was just absolutely brilliant. Really good.
You reminded me of two things. Well, the first thing, I'll jump back to what your workshop with Karen, because I've been tidying up my Google Drive like about 4 months ago now. And I found an abstract from Let's Test for a workshop that I did with Martin Hinier, which was titled "So You Want to Be a Test Star." And it was literally the same thing you've just described. I've just opened it up, but it's like every year testers gather at these amazing workshops, and you want to be on that stage. We're going to help you craft your abstract. And I'm not forgotten about it, but I can't remember. It's 9 years ago as well, and that's the crazy thing. It's like
9 years ago.
Yeah, and it for me now, it's how have we not solved that problem? That's what my immediate brain went off on. It's like, how is there not a central amazing place that has all the insights that me and Martin would have shared, that you and Karen shared? And like, because I remember I wrote a thread on the platform that we won't name anymore, which has all, it's like 40 posts long or something like that. But again, I think we still need more of that because there is so many great stories out there. And then to tie that back into Chris, what I loved about Chris's talk was, as you said, it was adopting, or what was the exact word, but thriving in an era of change. I loved what he did because he made me realize some of my own career where he was like, so I think at least one job he was like, I'm Mr. Performance, right? I have mastered performance testing. That's who I am. I am this person now. And he found that as a gap. But I think this is one thing I would love to like, I need to maybe message Chris. Like, I think he didn't pull out his ability to spot areas of improvement enough and how he does that. Like he did it, but he
Because
didn't.
He did it a lot.
He did it a lot, but he didn't
He did it
really.
a lot.
Yeah, he didn't really pull out exactly how he did that. But essentially, he's like,
Okay.
I'm Mr. Performance. I've spotted that gap. I'm going to become that person, and he did. And then he went to his next job, and he's like, hey, I'm Mr. Performance. And then like this big like end of boss person came in and went, I think you'll find I'm Mr. Performance. And then Chris was like, well, what do I do? And again, he used the same set of skills, which I don't think he called out enough to go, okay, well, accessibility, no one's looking at that. I'm going to go and learn that and master that.
I'm going to go and fill that gap.
Exactly.
That is quality engineering
absolutely
in action.
Yeah.
I think that is quality engineering in action. Where are the gaps in our quality culture or the way that we're delivering or the product that we're building? I'm going to go and deal with that. I don't need to go and take care of of performance because the end of level boss is there. It's fine.
Which is, again, like, that just reminded me, again, I really do need to find ways of writing more, but I did a keynote at Agile Testing Days on the Beach, which was about knowledge gaps. It's like slightly same thing, but how do you spot the gaps? And then how do you go about filling those gaps? Or how do you find, maybe you fill it yourself, or maybe you bring other people in. But the fact there is a gap, it gives you a way of framing an area of improvement. Because you're like, hey, there's a gap here. If we're able to plug it, that might help with A, B, and C, which might help with this side of it. But yeah, and then finally, just like you said on his I was writing down words as Chris was speaking. I was like, I have no idea what he just said, but I am bought in. Doesn't that might even be a real word, but I'm hooked.
Mate,
I'm sat there googling words, going, "What did he say?"
Ladies and gentlemen, this is his first talk.
Yeah.
So he's only going to get better from here in my humble opinion, and he works with the absolute hosting dynamo that is Lee Rathbone, and Lee Rathbone is a storytelling master.
Yeah.
And so if him and Chris are working together, good Lord, I mean.
And a good thing, I think Lee would have been at the event regardless, but also he's currently Chris's boss, right? So it was great to see Lee there supporting,
doing what
Chris
Lee does.
well.
Lee
exactly.
was doing Lee things because, as I say, I was introducing Christopher, and as I'm looking at you, the stage is to my left, so I'm facing the stage, but then to my right is Lee, and Lee has recorded the entire bloody talk.
Yeah.
For Christopher, so that he can watch it back and use the skills that you talk about and say, oh, what was I not happy with? What was I really happy with? So that the next time, because this is what his talk was about, right? And so he's gonna, I would be, he's gonna leverage those improvement skills when he looks at that talk again. Absolutely. But he should be happy with what he sees, in my opinion. Yeah, it's really good.
Absolutely that. And also, I think that's another nice tie back to PeersCon, though, that the affordability of it would allow you to be like, hey, boss, come along, right? If this was an established conference, north of 500, £1,000 a ticket, that's suddenly not your boss would most likely say, yes, I want to be there to support you, and then go, oh, the ticket's 1,500 quid. Right. That's suddenly another conversation that needs to be had now. Whereas if it was 15 quid, 25 quid, it's like, yeah, sure. Even if you pop down just for that talk.
Right.
It's, it's not a lot.
He could have bought his laptop and just kind of said, right, I've got a meeting at, whatever it was, 2 p.m. And the meeting was, I've got to go and watch
I think that's one of the, I don't know, don't think I've seen PeersCon play on this, but given that we're, discussing PeersCon, it's like, there's peers in the wider community, but also it's so affordable. You can bring your actual company peers with you and kind of have this double whammy of peers.
That's a shout. That is a shout, man.
and you can't.
Well,
You can do that over events, but the cost is going to be high. So
they've already announced that they're going to do 2026.
exactly, and they've got the space,
So
like the venue that you're using, and I believe they're sticking with. There's plenty more space in there to
venue,
be doing this.
I love
So
that venue.
yeah,
I love that venue so much. But yeah, that was so. There were the two talks that I introduced. Feel and Christopher, amazing. And then I missed the next talk, and I don't know why. I think I was doing volunteering type stuff. But I missed Tom's talk. I didn't watch enough of it. I caught the end. I caught him answering questions. So Tom was talking. His presentation was called "Reinventing Myself: A Dyslexic's Journey from Manufacturing to Software Testing."
yeah.
Already hooked. If you ever met Tom and spoke to Tom, you kind of, my expectations were for a very fun and engaging and insightful presentation. I was with Mark Winteringham a few months ago, and we went to the Cambridge Tester meetup, and Tom was there, and he is great fun. But the way he was carrying himself in the questions, because I think Tom is another first time speaker.
I believe so. Yeah,
You couldn't tell. He just felt at home, and he felt really relaxed when he was answering the questions, because the questions can be, some people can find that the hairiest part of the presentation when they make it, because you don't know what's coming. But the presentation, you're like, this is why I live. I've designed this whole thing, and the question's a little bit more left field. But he handled that like a boss. Did you get to watch that? Did you get
I
to
did.
listen
Yeah,
to
I
that?
watched all the talks. I didn't go to the workshop, so I'm trying to remember. I just remember intently listening to Tom, because I asked the question at the end. So he was talking about it being in the drinks industry, as in, I think, manufacturing side of the drinks industry.
Okay.
And it was the question, like, he did a really good talk. And then the question I asked him was, I can't remember the answer, unfortunately, but it was, what's the thing you've been able to take from that career and apply it into software testing? Because I think, again, you went down the apprenticeship route, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Tom went down the apprentice route with Cambridge Consulting. That's it. Yeah, because he works with
That's right.
David.
You worked with David. Yeah,
Yeah,
David is one of the Testing Peers
yeah,
hosts of the podcast, so one of the organisers of the
yeah. I now
conference.
remember now, because I remember him telling that he also said that he got told he didn't get the apprenticeship, and then
Okay.
something happened with the other candidate, and then and I don't know if it was Dave, but they ended up calling him up like a few
Sliding
days
doors.
later and going, "Hey, are you still interested in this?" And
Wow.
he was saying, like, it's the best thing he's done. He's had personal, tragedies in his life as well, and like this change of career has really helped with that. But yeah, and again, another very engaging talk, and I think it was really nice to see. I think the answer again was communication, like, as in the skills that he's been able to take when like crisis hits on the delivery lines and stuff, and it's the same. You're delivering software instead of delivering bottles of tequila. So, but yeah, again, another great, held himself, really well. Great energy, comedy again. Yeah, really good talk, and great to see new speakers on the stage as well.
And last but by no means least on the main stage was Linda van der Vuren. I hope I said that right, Linda.
That was good.
Uh, I did watch this talk. See, I'm giggling.
It was funny.
I don't know whether it was a talk or a stand-up comedy routine, but basically, the talk was called "The Comedy of Errors," and possibly the most accurate title in the whole day, because it was hilarious and it did feature a lot of errors. I don't know where or how she sourced these errors, but
Experience,
they
yeah.
were fantastic. So Linda was just talking about her journey with automation, where it's taken her, some of the things that she's seen. It was just a lot of fun. I thought her slides were fantastic as well. But yeah, really, there's a point where she shares a bunch of comments that she's seen in repos and frameworks over the years, and she jokes with you saying, "Look, at least one of these I've actually, like, it's actually mine. See if you can guess which one it is." And they were just outrageous. I can't remember what a lot of all of them were, but they were just ridiculous.
I can't remember verbatim, but a lot of them are, don't touch this. This is magic.
One of them was, "I'm sorry."
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think I don't know. Like a lot of it is I don't know how this works. It just does. There was lots of funny commit, and I was laughing my head off through that bit because I was trying to think of my own, and like I've definitely written stuff that like this just works, right? Just please, like just leave it. It works. A lot of stuff
Yeah,
where I've written like. This is my fourth attempt. If this doesn't work, I quit. And if you
yeah.
find this code, it's from me. And you know what
Well,
it made me think though, and another one that I think if she ever did something like this again, or even me or you did or anyone, um, code commits, code comments definitely, but I'd love to see a commit messages
oh
version of this talk because
man.
I've written commit messages that got pulled up by the profanity checker on one of my one of the branches. Like I was like, just work, and it's like I think it works now. Okay, I really think it works now. I really hope it's working now. So,
Yeah, she talked about that kind of thing though. She talked, and she used the word defenestration a lot,
oh yes, yes.
which is to throw something through the window. Because and this actually, all giggling aside, I think this was a really I think it was a really interesting point that she made, where she was basically saying, so most talks that I see at software testing conferences are around how wonderful code is and how much people enjoy coding, and they've learned that coding is a thing and they can learn this thing and it helps them in their job. Whereas what Linda was saying was, I can do it, but actually
Mm,
I don't enjoy it at all. Like it does my head in. I don't get excited about doing it. You know what I mean? She is extremely competent. Do not misunderstand what I'm saying. She can do it and has done it. But she's done it to such a point, and she's done it for so long in so many different contexts, that she now realizes, actually I don't enjoy it enough to keep doing it. But she can leverage it in the other work that she does a lot and a ton. And the quality of the conversations that she can have with particular teammates will be amplified due to that
yeah,
skill.
absolutely.
But I just thought it was really cool that she was saying, you don't have to love coding to be in this industry. You know,
Yep.
you don't have to love it. You don't have to be like, yeah, I'm going to get up and do, write some test automation framework. It's going to be sick. Like, well, I'll learn enough to be useful. I might even learn enough. I'll probably learn enough to be dangerous, but
Yep.
I don't have to love it, and I can still be successful. I thought that was a fantastic,
It was really good
piece.
angle of again, like you said, that word that I've just forgot already. What was the word?
Defenestration.
Yeah, she was like, if you want me to do all this coding, like that's going to happen a lot. Like I'll do it, but like you're gonna be replacing a lot of Windows because like, this is what's going to keep happening. And she's like, it'd be much better to hire someone else. And she mentioned hiring kind of a graduate placement person from her company, and that
Hmm.
person loved the coding side,
Loved it.
absolute wizard. And the
Yeah,
two of them together worked really well. And from
yeah,
a like,
undefeatable.
she didn't go into great detail, but from a budget point of view for the client, it was like
Hmm.
it's so much cheaper for you to hire me and this graduate and have us work together in collaboration than it would be
Hmm.
to hire me. My cost, I'm not doing these other things, and also you've got 100 windows to replace every week. So, like, it was, yeah, it was a really good message, and yeah, the comedy delivery of it all was brilliant. Yeah, really, really like not seen a similar talk, to be honest. It was quite good, and I think we
Yeah,
spoke on one of our pods. Like, I've got this vision in my head of being able to do stand up or something like at a social
yeah.
event at somewhere like ATD. I think it would be great to have like an open mic kind of testing night. And I met a dev at Ordev. I met a dev at Ordev. But
Tongue twister.
yeah, I met a developer at Ordev, and they have the. I think you might have been, or you've been maybe tempted to go. It was the PubConf down in
Oh, you
London.
told me. No, you were telling
Yeah,
me about it. Yeah, and I wanted to
yeah,
go.
and they have like a comedy style like roast battle, but centered around development. And I've just like got this idea in my head. It would be fun to have someone like Linda who clearly would be capable of, or is capable of delivering like kind of stand up s jokes, but then this kind of light-hearted, obviously, nothing
Mm.
like nasty, but having this kind of comedy battle on the go. But yeah, another great talk, and it was a great way to end it as well. I think, given it was kind of funny, and energy's usually low, and there's people laughing, so.
Oh my God. You just reminded me about something. It's a bit of a tangent, but I have to share. So one of the awesome things about the venue, so the venue in and of itself is amazing. Do not misunderstand me. But it's in Nottingham, and it's very very near to the headquarters of the Games Workshop. And anyone, if you don't know who the Games Workshop is, if you've ever seen a bunch of nerds playing with little metallic figures that they paint that look absolutely incredible, playing things like Blood Bowl or Space Marine, Warhammer 40,000, Warhammer. We're at a nerd conference for software testing, and then we're across the road from where we went. After the post-event drinks were at this. So the HQ's got this bar, and it's got this space where you can go and game, and it's got this bar. So we went there. This is so tenuous, but I wanted food. They're doing some repairs. There's no food, so I had to go downstairs to the food car, where I ran into this person called Ted Bradshaw. Now, apart from restoring honor to the Bradshaw name, unlike certain people that I could mention,
I knew that was coming.
The other thing. So a tangent on the tangent. I did my coaching training in 2020 with Barefoot Coaching, and you get a load of different tutors. One of the tutors was this incredible human called Ted Bradshaw.
No way.
And I've never met him before. This was all virtual because it was in the height of the plague, so it went virtual. And I follow him on LinkedIn. So we're back at the Games Workshop thing outside. I'm at this food car, and I'm like, I know this guy's walking towards me. Like, well, who is this guy? And it's Ted. And I just lose it, man. I completely went into fanboy mode. This guy, please go and follow his content. Sign up to his newsletter. He gives such good advice around, I don't even know how to describe it. He's a coach, and he talks about, he's a coach and he's a therapist. So he has really good advice around how to manage, cope with, metacognitions, how to think about your thinking, how to make peace with the way that your brain works, how to subtly nudge the thought patterns that you have in a more helpful and direct, useful direction. And I just fanboyed this guy for like half an hour, almost caused him to not eat any food, because he is also a nerd. He was there to play Warhammer 40,000, I think, with another mate of his who I also got chatting to, who was also awesome, whose name I can't remember. But it just capped, for me, it capped off the day perfectly. I'd been at PeersCon, made some new friends, caught up with some existing friends, and then went to the mecca of Nerdsville for games. They've got giant space marines there that are absolutely incredible. And then I met this guy who is a hero of mine. I consider him a bit of a mentor, even though he is probably, if he ever hears that, he just found that out now.
Well,
it was brilliant. It was brilliant. So good.
Well, I think there's we know PeersCon organisers are going to listen to this. There might be a good idea for a speaker for next year. He clearly lives in Nottingham or nearby.
Because I said, mate, are you in the Midlands? He said, yeah. I was like, God, man.
Yeah, might be worth trying to do something there.
Ooh, that's a shout. Because we've had topics like that at PeersCon, or say they've had topics like that at PeersCon before, right?
Well,
so had them this year.
Yeah, there's 2 more sessions to quickly review, or 3 actually, and then we'll discuss the thing that they asked for, which is actionable feedback. So it might be a nice way to end this kind of summary of PeersCon. But yeah, love a bit of fanboy in there, Vernon. Another Bradshaw as well. Clearly, it runs in the name. Excellent.
No, so just thank you, Ted, for being you, and also restoring hope and honor and respect to the Bradshaw name, because namesake, who's on my left, he's trashing it, mate. He's just no good. Hopefully he's no relation. I hope he turns out to not be a relation in any way. So
yes, we should find out actually. Right, 3 more sessions that I didn't go to, but obviously we can talk about them. So Risk Storming with our good friend Baron. I'll let you you do his surname.
So Baron Van Dalen. I'll quickly talk about both. So I mentioned the pipeline and the Risk Storming workshops. So the pipeline workshop is a card game that you can play. There's physical cards and there are digital cards, so you can play it either way. co-located or remotely. And it's a game to help you understand and design your pipelines. So if you're someone who doesn't know what pipelines are, a game like this is a really beautiful way to understand what they are and how they work, what are the characteristics of them, etc., etc. So Zillard is someone who goes around the place in his he works for a consultancy, right?
Yeah.
They go around teaching this game. The game is originally designed by Emily Bache, who we somehow blagged onto
Been
the
on the pod,
podcast
yeah.
because she was at ATD. So go and listen to Emily. Go and follow all of Emily's stuff because she's absolutely bloody awesome and knows all the things about all the things. But this pipeline game, the thing that I loved about it, Rich is frowning at me because he knows what I'm probably about to say. As a tester who wishes that they were more technical, see what I didn't say? Did you notice what I didn't say, Richard? Haha. As a tester who is always yearning to be more technical, I think that this is a beautiful way to help the testers in your life who think that they are not technical or would like to be more technical. It gives them a fantastic way to understand what a pipeline is, and it's immediately practical. You can do this. You can go through this game once and immediately go back to your office and start to look at the pipelines that your teams are using in a much richer, and it's like, I understand what's going on here now, and awesome. And I can understand why people are grumbling about this pipeline, and I can understand why people are super happy with this pipeline. So really, really great. How that ties in with Baron's workshop on risk storming is that in order to design your pipeline, you need to know what you care about as a team and as a company. And that's where risk storming is absolutely, the beast. Fantastic at that. So it's risk storming as a workshop or a process for, again, it has physical cards. There are digital ones available as well.
Yeah.
And it's a way for you to collaborate with your team when you're building something to figure out what do we care about. There are, almost an inexhaustible list of quality criteria, characteristics that you could claim you're interested in, but this forces you to constrain that conversation. Say, well, we can only deal with a handful. Which ones are we going to go after first, at least? And then you have that conversation, and then you talk about, okay, what are the risks to this given quality criteria that we're interested in? And then once you've had that conversation, the next part of the conversation is, okay, what are we going to do to manage, to mitigate, to handle these risks that we've surfaced? So those two workshops complemented each other really well. And I was on a UK tour of risk storming with Baron. We were in Newcastle for a meetup in Newcastle. It went really well. The Newcastle tester meetup, if you're in that part of the world, I would strongly urge you to go and check it out. The organizers are fantastic. It's in a great venue. Newcastle is sick. Quick football tangent.
Well, they'll be happy there, yeah.
If I was going to lose a cup final to any team in the UK without crying, definitely it would be Newcastle.
Did you lose a cup? Did you lose a cup final?
And that's all we're going to talk about football at the moment.
You're still in the Champions League, though, right? Oh dear, never mind.
Have you looked at the table?
This ties nicely into the next workshop, which was
sure there. Anyway, let's get
off. The next workshop's called "Can You Hear Me?" And actually, I can't hear what you're saying at the moment, Vernon. And it's techniques to have much better conversations. So unfortunately, I didn't go to this, and I can't really say much about it. So
I didn't get to it either. All I know is that I think Stuart was in our workshop as well with Karen. I think I might be misremembering that. But Stuart is a great dude. I've met him a few times at a few events. He's a leader in testing. You can tell this is a dude who knows a lot about communication. Some of the conversations we've had, where he's told me about some of the capers and the challenges and the solutions he's come up with, been top notch. So I couldn't get because I was hosting on stage. So gutted about that. I'll have to catch up with Stuart and see if he's going to deliver that workshop somewhere else. And if he is, we'll hype him up and send you in that direction, because very smart guy. Also exceptionally tall. So got got neck ache talking to Stuart for a little bit. That on
I think
PeersCon.
I spoke to him in the bar actually the night before. Yeah. And then the last session was a game I've played. Obviously, I wasn't in this session, but it's a game I've played. Defend the Indefensible. Or
With the
Indefendable.
right host, by the way.
Yeah. So I didn't. Did you go? Did you pop in or?
I didn't. I was listening to Linda's talk, but Sana Visser was the workshop facilitator for this one. Defend the Indefensible. Do you want to describe what it is and how it works?
Oof. Well, I might get it wrong, but I've only played it twice, I think. But yeah, you basically get a statement such as test cases are mandatory in any testing software lifecycle.
Yeah.
It's not negotiable. You have to have them.
Yes.
And
They're
then
fantastic.
one team argues against that, and then the other team argues for it. And it's a great exercise to help you frame your key points around, your opinions on stuff. And when you have to try and make an argument against it, it really forces you to think of all the times where you've been going to someone like, we need to bring this technique in, we have to, it's going to save all this money and all that, and the other person's just sat there going, I think you're wrong. And it gives you an opportunity to try and play both sides, and you start to pick up some of those little nuances that actually I really need to expand on that point. And it's just also hilarious because sometimes it's just you just can't do it, but you've got to. So
I've never played it, but when I heard it described to me, I was thinking, oh mate, I wish I could have done that, because I think it's a really good exercise for the way that people think and communicate. Like, you critically think about something.
Yeah.
Because we all have our biases, right? We all have the things that we are drawn to and the things that we are repelled from naturally. A game, is it? Do you call it a game or what? I don't know. I'm going to call it a game.
Yeah,
a game like this forces you to look at a position or an opinion from a different perspective, so that you can convincingly argue for or against it. I know that the Association for Software Testing have a series of people doing the same thing, which was great fun. I'll include the link to that, because they record theirs online, so you can go and watch them. It's a similar kind of thing. You get this statement that you're supposed to either defend or attack, and if it's something that you agree with and you have to attack it, it's horrible. So if it's something that you disagree with and you have to defend it, that's horrible. But the way it makes you change and adopt your thinking is fantastic. And Sana is a really experienced consultant, so I imagine she's really, in this situation quite a lot, where she's facing a situation where the client needs the company to do something, and she's like, well, whilst I don't agree with it, I've got to help this customer succeed. Yeah. So, okay, how can we do this without me feeling completely horrible when I look at myself in the mirror?
And I've just remembered where I played this most recently. It was the MCR.test meetup in Manchester. And we played it as more of a judgment. So there was teams had, the same sentence, and you were arguing for and against, just as we described. But then the other team, there was a third team who were the judges, and they were judging who won. And
did they have that here? Did they have something similar?
I don't know. I didn't see the format. I don't know if they were just doing it for, just to see the funny points, or whether they were doing the judging side.
I bet you Sana or the crowd were voting on that.
Yeah, maybe. But it was, and I think it ties nicely into like wrapping up what was PeersCon, because while the arguments on both sides, and when we did it at Manchester, were, quite balanced, I would say, in some cases.
Okay. I thought you were going to say something
else.
The
actual thing that swayed a lot of the judges was the confidence it was delivered in. It was the format that you delivered it. It was the picking up on the points of the previous defender. So it wasn't about your argument you formed. It was how you wove it into, if you went first or second, but then also how you delivered it, the confidence you delivered it in, the almost arrogance. And again, there's lots of talks we've been to, right, about how that might be easier for certain people, especially white middle-aged men with beards, and how sometimes you're listened to more because of certain characteristics. But actually, it wasn't really the arguments that won most of the judges. It was the delivery. And it was, that was really interesting side effect from playing that game.
In my obligatory shout out to the Diary of a CEO podcast, I urge you all to go and watch 2 of the more recent episodes, at least in terms of when we're recording this. So one of them, the guest is this Aussie chap called Vin Zhang. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. He's an Asian chap. I think he's a Vietnamese and Chinese heritage. Wears glasses, so that's the thumbnail that you're looking for. And then there's another one that's called The Speaking Coach. And I forget his name, but he's got some. He's an American white dude, American lawyer. What Richard just said is absolutely nailed. He's nailed on. Like, go and watch those 2 episodes. They're ridiculously long, as those podcast episodes are. Over 2 hours both. You will not be disappointed. I am absolutely going to link to those. They cover the topic that Richard has talked about in terms of, it's a sad truth, but it is true. The way you deliver the message often is more impactful than the message itself. That is important for people in roles like ours, because we often feel like we are marginalized and we often feel like our voices are not heard. So anything you can do to upskill yourself in the art of communication, I would urge you all to do. It's a topic that obviously that I vibe with a lot.
Yep.
Listen to those 2 episodes. Play Defend the Indefensible. Play PowerPoint karaoke. Like, all of these things that help you, find a meetup to go and present at. Whatever, like, it all helps you in your day job. I think that's my personal belief. So that's a great observation there, Rich. Really good.
Yeah, and I think that, again, for me, I didn't really look too much at the program. I'm not very good at looking at programs before I go to places, but like, the obviously theme of this conference, right, was communication, and we know it's such an important topic, right, for every role within. To be honest, we say within IT, but it's pretty much in life.
Knowledge work and basically is what I would.
We spend most of our days communicating via, whether that's via face-to-face, chat, messaging. It's always happening, and as a job, we talk a lot about the job of getting a lot of the information that we need to then communicate, but not so much sometimes about how we go about then communicating it and setting clear boundaries. A lot of the talks, talking about their own personal struggles, making sure people have that context of who you are, why you prefer this way of communication. That Lauren spoke about that a lot. As I prefer it this way, but I know this person doesn't prefer it that way. And just making it a nice place. And again, that's what PeersCon felt like, making it a nice place to feel like a peer, not like just another person in that team. You're not just a developer, you're my peer. And we need to work together and communicate. Communication is a key part of how we do that.
So they're very deliberate about that, the peers.
Yeah.
When I say the peers as a noun, I'm talking about those 4 chaps. They're very deliberate that the conference feels like that, and they've managed to pull it off. They managed to pull it off really good.
They did, and they asked for constructive feedback, right? And I don't know if you've got any, but I do have one, and not to end up on, let's see if I can practice my communication skills, because it's really hard to give constructive feedback, right? Because you almost feel like you're nitpicking, and you're
situation, behavior, impact. That's my favorite framework. Use that.
Yeah. So again, venue, brilliant. Like the little lunchbox food thing that venue does, superb.
Come on.
Although here's going to be my first little critique of the food box and there's a label on each box, which you think might be the kind of flavor for the box, but it's not. It's just the flavor of the sandwich. So I got the chicken and bacon box, which meant my sandwich was chicken and bacon. And then I blindly went and opened the pasta thing that came in the box. And just started eating it. And the flavor of the pasta was tuna. And I hate tuna.
Oh. How interesting. Okay.
Maybe he probably said this on the box, but the biggest label on the box is chicken and bacon. And I was like, right.
I wonder if it said it on the container, maybe.
Oh no, it did. It did say it on the container as well.
You were just in the
I
moment,
was just
like,
like, oh, this is going to
right,
be chicken
okay,
and bacon pasta,
right,
right?
right,
Because
right.
that's what it
Okay,
said. So
interesting.
that's my little first gripe. But apart from that, these little boxes are amazing. There's fruit, there's snacks, there's
Yeah,
cheese. You know, there's a
yeah.
sandwich. Like the boxes are fantastic.
Hmm.
I love that bit. Venue amazing. Walk on music this year. I found it enjoyable, but it needs to be done. They need to walk onto it, and it needs to be. I don't know what the right term is, but it there was too much silent. There was too much of me just stood, not me, but the speakers stood there waiting for the music to finish, and it almost needs to work better.
I can tell you now because I know exactly which one of the peers is responsible for that. That's Mr.
Oh, I know
Armstrong.
who. Yeah, I know that too. Yeah, yeah,
And we both know why.
yeah, yeah. He loves the
He,
wrestling. He's a
he's gonna
wrestling fan. Yeah,
he's gonna be all over that because he loves that stuff. One of the things I love about Chris is he wants everyone to have their moment in the sun.
yeah,
So I'll be surprised that he's gonna look into that. I'm pretty sure he's gonna try
yeah.
and make that happen.
Because I think I just found the stood there waiting for it to end, and it almost, if I was the speaker, it almost disrupts my flow because I'm kind of ready with my first sentence.
Okay,
Or you need
okay.
prepping a bit more. Maybe it's a bit more. So I've become a big. I used to love watching darts, and then I kind of stopped. But Luke Littler's kind of got me back into darts again. Whereas with darts, they walk onto it, but then they have the whole bit on the stage, you know, where they're getting everyone going, and they're
It's
not stood there waiting.
it's more established of a thing. So they're like,
Yeah. And we
and
tried
then
walk on music at a few of the events I've organised, and again, in some cases it was brilliant, and other times it didn't work so well. So I think I'm all for it. I think it's great. I just think it needs tweaking to make it. It needs to elevate the
I hear you.
talk, and I don't think it
I
did.
get you.
Um,
I think it needs to be done with the specific presenter in mind. I know exactly what you're talking about.
yeah,
Rathbone, our friend Lee, no drama. Like he's going to use that as fuel,
he'd be dancing
and
on the
he'll be
stage
hyping up.
to. I can't
Would be
remember what.
dancing. He does dance. That's
Yeah,
what he does. It's like is there hype? So yeah, I get that's interesting. Good feedback there,
and
Rich.
you'd
Yeah,
walk on rapping. Um,
absolutely.
so then this is my more negative tone, right? I love the topic of communication. I think it
Mm.
is massively important,
Hmm.
but
Oh,
it's a testing conference, and I think on this event, I think the balance had tipped a little bit too much, and I
oh,
think a lot of the talks they had the skills and they did hint at it. They hinted at the topics where they could have just tipped it a bit more. I think there was just not enough testing for me.
oh.
Um, and I would love that balance to be. I don't think we want to go all the way to testing because there's lots of events that do all testing, and I love the fact they focus on the peers. I don't even know if they've made the connection with communication and peers, but they focus a lot on the peers side, and I get
Mm.
that. But I think on this occasion, it tipped a little bit too much for me.
Oh, do you mean you personally would have preferred to see more um direct or obvious? This is about testing
More
topic.
educational on the testing side of that
I am a
communication.
tester. I am in a team, and I'm interacting with the product. How do I do that?
Yeah.
Topics.
No. More like there was hinting at experiences in. I don't know. I need to share my test results, right? And
Hmm.
that was it. That was the framing of the testing side, and then it was mostly about communication
Okay.
skills. But they didn't weave the delivering of the test
They
results.
didn't weave it back to
Yeah, it wasn't
here's
weaved in
how this
enough.
impacts and makes me
Exactly
more
that. Yeah,
effective as a
yeah.
tester. Got it.
So I think it's just a little bit more of that. And again, all the speakers hinted at these things. Just I don't feel it was woven through enough to be a
Interesting.
testing. It almost felt like a communication conference framed around
Okay.
testing.
Okay. Okay.
But doesn't mean the talks. They didn't take away from the education. Education was amazing, but a
Mm.
lot of the talks, their extra 5 minutes where there was Q&A, and some of them finished a bit early. That 5 minutes could have been where we really kind of brought the
Got
testing
into it.
framing into it a little bit more. I don't want to hear, talks around this is how I test, like that per se, but just weaving in a little bit more of how these experiences around being a peer in communication have helped their testing side a bit more.
Okay.
And that's not everybody. That was just a general consensus I felt at the end of the day. It was like learned a huge amounts about comms, and I love that, and it's a great topic, and I know how important it is. But if I was a junior there or a less experienced person in the testing space coming to testing peers, I probably would have wanted a little bit more testing. But that's just my observation. So maybe they'll agree, maybe they won't. Maybe you agree, maybe you don't. It's just that's what it felt.
I can definitely see the point. Yeah, I guess there's a bunch. I mean, you've organised events coming out of the wazoo, right? I guess part of it. I guess part of the solution could be how much you work with the speakers ahead of time.
Yeah.
I guess another part of it is just how you put the schedule together. I don't think. Have you given them that feedback via the form?
You know what? I haven't. I completely forgot about the form. Sorry.
Well,
I'll message Chris directly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Feedback for me, I'll have to have a think, because it was generally my feeling is one of extreme positivity.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of constructive feedback on things that might improve. I think the walk-on music is a good one.
I think that the sponsors was better set up this year.
The sponsors were much better set up this year.
I still
think
the
workshop room was much better up this year, because
I
it was
didn't go
bigger.
to the workshop room, but yeah, I think again with the sponsors though, this is again my own experience of organising events. Most people go to the sponsors in the breaks. So I'd put them in the big room. I'd put them in the main room, because, and if they want a conversation, maybe you can go to that back room have that more as a quiet conversation space. But most people go to the sponsors at the breaks and at lunch, and there's a lot of space in that main room to have them round the side, and people will then see it. Whereas if you don't go into that room, which is, you can only get in through a normal size door, you ain't seeing it. And I feel there's enough space, where, there's all those benches at the side where you make your tea. There's a lot of space in that building to probably put the sponsors a bit more front and central. Because
space is not going to be the issue there, is it?
Yeah,
at all?
And I might be wrong, but I don't think many people go to the sponsors while the talks are on. Maybe they might if they know them and they want to have a chat, but again, I think you could still do that. So yeah, that's just a way of an improvement. But again, it was an improvement on the year before. So the sponsors was better than the previous year, and now I think they can even go one better. And especially as, again, PeersCon do make a big. They emphasize the impact the sponsors have because of keeping it affordable, and I feel maybe the sponsors could get a little bit more.
So let's figure. So it sounds like you're saying let's figure out how we can tweak things so the sponsors get more value out of it, so they can continue to contribute.
Exactly that, because the price is low because most of the cost is being covered by the sponsors and
the sponsors.
And I think it's always been hard with events you want to give the sponsors a lot, but you also don't want them to be the star of the show. But it's a really fine balance, and I think they're definitely going in the right direction. But given the size of that hall, I feel like maybe it could be used a little bit better.
The only risk with that, well, in fact, no, I won't, because that's just going down a rabbit hole. I'll talk to you about that after the thing.
But yeah, I think that again, the fact they got the support was amazing. I loved one of the sponsors. I think it was N-Focus. I don't feel bad calling one particular sponsor out, but they had these little cute blue bugs, little tiny bugs, like little wood. I think they were wooden or something, but they were super little cute, and they hid them everywhere. And again, I've done a similar game where you hide stuff around the venue, but these bugs were like proper cool swag. And they were sticky. I put one on my laptop, but sadly it's fallen off because you slide your laptop into your bag. But yeah, this little cute bug, I loved it. And I gave it back because I didn't want to steal it. Because
my friend Emily put one on her glasses.
Yeah, they were awesome little swag things. Those little blue bugs. So yeah, and then again, another improvement I would say is the switch to the pub, the Warhammer.
That was the only thing I was going to talk about. I think
that was better.
That went well, and I think the location helped.
Yeah,
because it was very close to the event venue.
Yeah.
So I think we should go there again because giant space marines. Like, why are we not going back there? And we are a bunch of nerds and we're going like that's just a synergy that we should just continue to use.
And then my last one I would say is and it's a real positive on, I think, calling them out, but you've got David, names are losing my head, the organisers. So
David,
Chris, Russell, that's it.
Yeah, and Simon.
Yeah. So what I would say about those four is they're not doing this for the limelight, right? But it doesn't happen without their work and their effort. And I'm not saying they should put themselves front of stage and have a bow and stuff, but like they should take more credit for what they've done somehow during the event. They were very there praising, you know, the volunteers and the speakers and everything else, and the sponsors, but they also need it too. So I think they shouldn't feel embarrassed or whatever it is that may be stopping them from getting up on that stage and saying, you know, we've done an amazing job.
It's not embarrassment.
Well,
it is
I
not
don't
embarrassment.
know. Yeah.
It's they want everyone else to be in the limelight. It really is as simple as that. I've had conversations with Christopher where I've literally said, "You are deranged. Why are you not like to the degree when Chris says that this is a not-for-profit event, having the privilege of being able to talk to the four of them to one degree or another."
Yeah.
I'm probably closest with Chris and Simon. I probably speak to them the most. But you know, I've spoke to all four of them in one way or another, and when they say they do not want to make a profit, they do not.
Yeah.
Like, they do not. They want this to be affordable and accessible to as many people as possible, to a degree that I think was crazy. But this year, while been having a little bit more conversation with Chris, I'm never gonna like. This is probably the last time I'm going to mention it because that is their modus operandi. So if you can, yeah, I think Chris is right, and I think this goes to all event organizers. So any meetups that you go to, any conferences that you go to, if you know the organizers or if you see them, PeersCon is no different. Give them a bit of a
Yeah, absolutely.
chat. Just say, hey, this is great. If you're having a good time, this is great. Like, to let them know we appreciate this because people are taking time out of their own day, energy, and in some cases, actual cash is being spent from their own pocket to do the thing. So yeah.
Well, I would say then one more feedback I'm thinking there as a fellow conference organizer is they should definitely consider the price of, and I don't mean raise it a lot, but I think they asked a few people there, and most people were like, you know, this is easy, a 50 quid, £100 day. And I'm not saying they should go and increase it. What I'm saying is they need to find a balance between.
You reminded me about something. Carry on. I want to say something.
Because I'm friends with them all, I've seen some of the stress in the weeks up to it, and that could be eliminated,
deviated.
Yeah, with a smaller increase. And I think they started really low, and it was amicable. That's not the word. I'm struggling with words.
Bearable.
No, it was like it was a nice thing for them to try and do, and then they've creeped up by a tenner. But I think realistically, they should settle on something like 50 or 100 and give them the financial comfort. So not for profit, they're not going to take this money and, you know, go on holiday or, you know, buy themselves whatever. They're going to keep it in the bank for when the sponsors aren't there and the event can then continue to live.
You've just given me an idea. So the thing I wanted to say, the thought that you triggered was, I know that last year for sure, and probably this year, there were some people who made it onto the schedule who couldn't come because the budget isn't there for travel.
Absolutely.
And so that could be a reason to increase the price of the ticket. Now, the idea that I had, that I've seen other events do, is that you stick with the early bird £15, the regular price 25 quid. Maybe you have another tier, which is a more like a, we will pay a bit more so that you can get people here kind of situation.
Yeah.
And I think they might have had that. I think a bunch of people, because the tickets were so cheap, they were like, I tell you what, I'm going to buy 3, and then you just find 2 people to go and
Yeah.
get these tickets to. So if they had a £50 ticket or a £100 ticket that was given with the understanding of, if you can use this to help fund the event,
Yep.
I'm going to pay that.
Absolutely.
If I can, if you can use this to fund a bit of travel for somebody, maybe there's somebody who's overseas who wants to come, I'll pay 50 quid, I'll pay 100 quid to contribute to that.
And I
That
think
could be something. Then you
absolutely.
think, some people could say, well, I can only really do the 25 quid, so I'm going to do that. But if you want to contribute more and help more, you can say, I'll give you 50, I'll give you 100 or whatever. That could be
Exactly
cool.
that. You could have a sliding scale. You know, you could sell, you know, if they sold t-shirts there for 15 quid, 20 quid, I'm buying a t-shirt. You know what I mean? Like, and I know, and
Let's go.
the reason why the reason why I'm bringing this up for them as well is the reason why they can do that, or they could increase the price, or they could sell other stuff is because of the transparency that they've got. So they're so transparent with the cost now, they could easily continue to be transparent with the bank balance. The bank balance is currently 10 grand, whatever, right? So therefore, we need to keep X amount in the bank to give us the comfort.
There's reasons.
Therefore, yeah, exactly. They can easily justify the cost of every event they do because they've got this transparency of being a non-profit. And that is amazing. I think some of the other non-profit initiatives we've seen in our industry have failed because of the transparency. And here they've got it. And I think that's the angle they can continue to use to make an affordable event, but also continue to elevate it with covering maybe some speaker costs, maybe, like I said, an extra swag, a t-shirt, increased branding, you know, I don't know, soft drinks, like, you know what I mean? Whatever it is, right? They can do that because they've got the transparency.
Piers, what do you call it? I was going to say something that sounded off key. I'm not going to say it. But Piers beverage.
Yeah, Piers Beverage. Yeah, we could get a brand deal going on with someone. But anyway, that's
Richard and I had designed this episode was going to take 30 minutes. That was over an hour ago.
It's all good. It's all good.
Nearly 2 hours ago.
But yeah, if you've not been to PeersCon, it's not on your radar. Get it on your radar. You can pay. You could probably, if you're in tech, you know, I'm not saying everyone has money to spare 15 quid, right? But you could probably skip. You know, if you don't have a 15 quid spare that month, then you could maybe, I don't know, skip a coffee, skip a night out, and I promise you, you're gonna get the worth. You're gonna get value from doing that. But also, you know, your company should just give you 15 quid. But sometimes it's not worth the red tape for your company to get the 15 quid back. But they should definitely be supporting you. But yeah, this is a fantastic event. It's second year in. They're already pushing the, you know, the value that you're getting from it, and I think it's only going to keep getting better the more that they're learning this field. You know, they've never done it before, and they're getting better and better, and the reputation now is starting to build as well. And you know, I'm going to be there every year, regardless of whether I'm speaking, helping, or whatever. I'm there. So
particularly if it's in Nottingham, because for me being in Leicester, the location is just bliss.
Yep,
bliss for me. Anyway. That is all from us for this episode. We might revisit some testing Piers topics.
Maybe, I think so, yeah. Or maybe in the future, maybe before it. Depends what scheduling order we come in. But this will be out at some point. Yeah. And there is a lot of topics that we want to dig more into. And also an attendee there, Emily O'Connor, we ended up chatting, and we were like, oh yeah, we're always asking for questions for discussion points. And she's like, really? And then she sent us a delightful 20-point Google Doc.
What she actually said was, are you sure? Because if you ask me for questions, you are going to get questions. If you've ever met Emily O'Connor, that sentence will make sense.
Yeah. So thank you all for listening. Be sure to, subscribe. If you were at PeersCon, please drop a comment below about what you thought of the event. And yeah, we're not broken 300 subscribers yet. We're at 286. So please subscribe. I've been using people recently on other channels. It's free to subscribe. It is free. Just click the button. And it might be free for you to do that, but for us, it gives us such a good boost of, I don't know what, we don't really need boost to continue doing this, but it feels good. It feels nice.
I know that some of you are reluctant to be nice to Richard. I get it. Forget it. Do it for me. Don't do it for Rich. Do it for me.
There we go. Do it for Vernon. And next week we'll try do it for Rich, and we'll see who wins.
Competition time. Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you on another episode soon.
See you soon, folks.
Bye-bye.